Hi everybody, this is week 2 and this is lecture for topic 2. The title of this topic is Moral Reasoning in Business. Okay, in this topic you will learn about definition of moral reasoning, moral agency, moral responsibility, moral philosophy, and then also you will see utility theory, KANT'S theory, KOHLBERG theory, and religious perspectives. This theory and perspectives explains about the way people make moral decision. Okay, let's see. Okay, first thing you have to know what is moral reasoning. What is the definition of moral reasoning? Moral reasoning is a systematic approach to make ethical decisions. This is like the way people or us or we make ethical decision about ethics, decision about whether something or action is right or wrong. Moral reasoning is a structured process, an intellectual means of defending our ethical judgments against the criticisms of others. It is a structured process. It is the way we do ethical decision and judgment. Okay, so it is step by steps how a person or people do ethical decisions. Knowledge of ethical principles is important, but it is the application and defense of rules of conduct that are core to moral reasoning. And the first thing, I think this is another thing that you have to know before you can learn about moral reasoning. Okay, the first the thing is you have to know about moral agency. Who is an agent in ethical theory? I think who is the actors? Who is the actor? Maybe actor is the more correct word for it. Let's see. An agent is any entity that acts and is subject to ethical rules. So I think the correct word to use is the actor in ethical theory. It is a rational being. It is not an agent for anyone. See, it is an agent but not agent. So I think the correct word is actor. The actor in ethical theory is not an agent for anyone or anything else. Once an actor accepts an ethical theory, he will be self-governing himself and hence will act in the best interests, and no one or anything will influence his decisions. So if you are a moral agent, a person is called a moral agent if he or she is a rational being and he acts for his interest. He or she acts for his or her own interest. The central concept of moral agency is moral responsibility. That is, we can hold a moral agent morally accountable for his or her behavior or actions. If a person cannot be held responsible for his or her actions, then we cannot call him or her a moral agent or a moral actor. Moral agent needs to be rational, and rational means know what is right and wrong, and autonomous, It means have the right to choose an action. So this is very important point. A person is called a moral agent if he can be rational, and he is autonomous or independent. Young children are not considered moral agents. The reason advertising to children is unethical. So young children, they are most of the time not yet rational, and also they are not autonomous or independent. They still depend on somebody, depend on his or her parents or guardians. So that's why young children are not considered as a moral agent. Okay, let's see. Moral responsibility. So, morally responsible. So, a person is morally responsible when knowing and freely perform the act, and knowingly and freely fail to prevent the act. So, if a person does not know about the action, and also he is forced to do such action, then he cannot be held morally responsible. So let's say we have a child, a son. So he do something bad. If he does not know about the thing he is doing, he was doing, or he was forced by somebody, then he cannot be held responsible. We cannot punish him. That's the thing. But if a person know what he or she was doing, and he or she is doing it by her or by his or her own will, then he is morally responsible. So we can say that moral responsibility applies to adults, men and women, that knows what he or she is doing and freely doing what he or she want to do. Okay, and then not morally responsible if did not possess all relevant information and were unable to prevent the act. Moral philosophy. Okay, moral philosophy. So first thing is, what is philosophy? Philosophy, there are many definitions of philosophy. The simple one that I have found is like the principles that guides you, the principles that you accept as a tool that guides you to do things. That is philosophy. People will have different philosophy of life. They think this is the right way, this is the right way. Person A say this is the right way. Person B say this is the right way. So it is the principles that the person accept as a tool or methods that guides him or her to do things. Okay. Here, the philosophy is said that can be divided into two types: teleological or actionable philosophy, and another one is non-consequential or duty-based or deontological philosophy. So see in the blue box here in this slide, this is the difference between the teleological and the ontological philosophies. See here the definitions. Okay, if a person takes teleological philosophy, then it is related to this definition. teleological philosophy means an approach to ethics focusing on the rightness or wrongness of action by examining its consequences. But if a person chooses or takes the ontological philosophy, it is an approach to ethics focusing on rightness or wrongness of actions themselves without any other consideration. So the thing is like this: if you see a person, when his view about doing things is based on consequence. Let's say the person says he will do something if the results of doing that thing is good. That person is adopting or using teleological philosophy in his or her way of doing things. But if you see a person when he do something, including doing things related to ethics, and he doing it by saying or adapting or accepting that doing things he will do the right things, even though the results of doing that thing is good or bad, no matter whether the results of doing that thing is good or bad, he will do the right thing. He does not care whether the results of what he is doing is good or bad. So that kind of philosophy is said as is called as the ontological philosophy. So it is like this philosophy explains about people, how people do, the reason why people do something. So it is not explaining which one is right or wrong yet. You will have to understand, some people, they do things because they think the results of that doings will be good. That's why he do it. But other people, they will do things if they think that is the right thing to do. They do not care whether the result of what he or she is doing is good or bad. That is the thing. See the second green box here, consequences. A consequentialist theory, as moral right or moral wrong, is dependent on the outcome of an action. But for the ontological philosophy, non-consequential theory as a moral right or moral wrong is not dependent on the outcome of an action. So for people who takes teleological philosophy, they are depending on the outcome of an action or behavior or activities. But people who takes the ontological philosophy, they do not care about the consequences. They only do things that they think is right. Weakness. The weakness of these philosophies. For teleological philosophy, it is not always possible to predict the consequences of an action. Sometimes we think that, by doing this, the result will be good. The consequences will be good, but we are not always correct. Sometimes the thing that we expect is not happen. So that is the weakness of this philosophy. The ontological philosophy, on the other hand, is more rigid and objective. Okay, this is more about the teleology. The term teleology is derived from the Greek word of telos, which means end or purpose. According to this theory, the concept of right, wrong, and duty are subordinated to the concept of end or purpose of the action. This is also called consequentialist theory. which suggests that ethical reasoning concentrates on the consequence of human action, and all actions are evaluated in terms of the extent to which they achieve desirable results. It is interesting to know about this. Okay, let's see the deontology. This is like the summary of what we have seen in the previous slide. Deontology, the term deontology comes with the Greek word of deon and deon or dion or something, means duty. According to the deontologists, the rules and principles are crucial for guiding human actions. They believe that ethical reasoning should concern activities that are rationally motivated and apply universally to all human action. So remember, deontology philosophy says people do actions or activities because they think doing it is the right thing. They do not consider the consequence or the results of their actions. Okay, this is one theory about moral reasoning. Remember about moral reasoning, the approach a person takes when he or she make ethical decisions. Okay, so let's see. KANT'S, Immanuel Kant, 1724-1804, attempted to discover the rational principle that would stand as a categorical imperative grounding all other ethical judgments. The imperative will have to be categorical rather than hypothetical or conditional, since true morality should not depend on our individual likings and dislikings or on our abilities and opportunities. These are historical accidents. Any ultimate principle of ethics must transcend them. Okay, Kantian ethics is categorized as the ontological theory. This theory proposed by Kant says action, whether it is right or wrong, people actions or human actions are not the people or human do actions the way they want to do, without considering the outcomes or consequence of their actions. This is what Kant said. In essence, absolute, see the white box here, absolute, it treats every situation equally, therefore there is no exception. Categorical imperative helps us to know which actions are obligatory and which are forbidden. Intrinsically good, something that is good in itself. Okay, so theory, okay, you have to know about theory. One of the definition of a theory is a theory explains about something. Okay, a theory explains about something. A theory is not the truth. A theory is something that is found by the theorists. Something happened and it is found by the theorists. Many people, many scholars, they introduce theories, and theories can be challenged. Okay, when I said theory can be challenged, it means that when you see the Kantian or Kant's theory, you have to accept the fact that this theory is developed or introduced by a person, which is the Kant, and then this is what this person thinks or found as happen. So it is not the truth. It is not the absolute truth. You can challenge the theory. So the theory can be right, can be acceptable, and also can be challenged. So when we learn about theory, we just see, and then maybe at the end of the learning, we can use the theory, or we can challenge the theory. We can say, oh, this theory is not applicable for our situation. In our situation, in our context, the explanation about this thing is different. So when you learn about Kant's theory, you can see and appreciate the theories, view and perspectives about things, but we always can challenge them. We always can challenge the theory. The reason we learn about Kant's theory and other theories in this course and other courses also is because maybe the theory is widely accepted. People say, oh, okay, we can accept this theory. So many people accept that theory. So it is like things that we can learn, things that we can apply. But it is not mean that we cannot challenge the theory. We can challenge the theory, but if we have found something new or better explanation about things. Okay, let's see. Kant's theory is an example of a deontological or duty-based ethics. It judges morality by examining the nature of actions and the will of agents rather than the goal achieved. Roughly, a deontological theory looks at inputs rather than outcomes. So remember this, Kant's theory is a deontological theory. It means that according to Kant's, people do things because people think it is the right thing to do. And when people do things, they are not considering the outcomes or consequences of what he or she is doing. Okay, this is another one. Utility theory. Okay, that utility theory or utilitarianism approach. Okay, utility theory or utilitarianism was first formulated by Jeremy Bentham. I hope I pronounce it correctly. And its foremost proponent was a student of Bentham, John Stuart Mill. Bentham and Mill both criticized Kant. They asked, do we really care what a person's intentions are if we get hurt or benefit? Bentham said, for the most part, we focus on the utility of actions. See, like I said earlier, a theory can be challenged. Kant theory has been challenged by these two persons, Bentham and Mill. Utility. An act or thing has utility for a person if it makes them happy or brings pleasure or decreases pain. So according to utility theory, see the action. Who are the stakeholders, benefit versus harm, and the goal? Family, friends, company, community, society. How can stakeholders benefit and how can they be harmed by my action? Create the most benefit over harm for the most stakeholders. So according to utility theories, people do action after they consider the consequences consequences of their action. In essence, this theory says when a person wants to make an action, the person will think about who are the stakeholders, who are the people that will be affected by the action, and then the person will consider the benefits and harm. When the person identify or can identify the stakeholders, the next thing the person will do is he or she will consider the benefit of doing the action or the harm of doing that action to the stakeholders. And then the person will think about the goal. Why such action or has to be done. Okay. Comparison. So these tables compares utility theory and KANT'S theory. Basically, you have I have explained about these two theories. So if you read the tables, you will see the details about the comparison and between these two theories. Okay, another thing that you have to know. About moral reasoning. I think this one is related to KOHLBERG theory. Moral reasoning, according to KOHLBERG, is the thinking process involved in judgments about questions or right and wrong. The thinking process. So, moral reasoning, according to KOHLBERG, moral reasoning has 6 stages. Remember, what is a theory? A theory is a theory explains something. So, according to KOHLBERG, the way people make judgment can be explained as this explanation. See the white box there. According to KOHLBERG, there are 4 stages of motivation or way people doing action or activities. These 6 stages can be divided into 3 levels. Pre-conventional, this applies to individual or human 3 to 7 years old, and then conventional applies to people at 8 to 13 years old, and post-conventional applies to adults. Okay, see the stages of motivation or the way people make moral judgment or decision. Stage 1, young children, they do things because at first level they do things because they want to avoid punishment. It is like when we look at our children or your sister, a little sister or little brother. You see, when these children is very young, they do things to avoid punishment. They afraid their parents angry or anything, so they do things to avoid punishment. And after that, when he or she becomes a bit older, you will see that children, they do things because they want to obtain rewards. You always see adults will say something like this. Okay, if you kids do this thing, you will get candies, or I will take you out to playground or something. So many young children, around 5 to 7, I think, they do things because they want the rewards. And then After that, a person will arrive at conventional level. This is applies to 8 to 13 years old children. See the stage 3. Belong and be accepted. You see the young children at school, they always do things because they want to be accepted by their friends. They want to be accepted by a group of children, a group of friends, etc. And after that, the next level the next stage according to Kohlberg is young children, maybe 11 to 13 years old. They do things because they obey rules and regulations. The teachers will say, this is right thing to do, this is not the right thing to do, this is the wrong thing to do. So these children will do things if it is to obey or follow rules and regulation. And then at the level of post-conventional, according to Kohlberg, there are 2 stages here. Number 5, the 5th stage is make and keep promises. Okay, young adults, they do things because they have made promises, or they want to keep promises. Okay, and the last stage according to Kohlberg is life moral imperatives. Okay, let's see this. Kohlberg moral dilemmas: hypothetical situations in which no choice is clearly and indisputably right. So Kohlberg theory is hypothetical theory. So the way Kohlberg explained about moral reasoning is hypothetical. He proposed 6 stages. Okay, this is more explanation about the Kohlberg's theory or Kohlberg's work. See here. I hope you can follow the Kohlberg theory. So like I said earlier, a theory explains about something, and we see it as a knowledge. It is not an absolute truth. It can be challenged. If you have maybe other scholars can offer better explanation. If other scholars can offer better explanation about moral reasoning, then we can accept the theory also. Okay, but this is the way Kohlberg's theory explains about it. It can be accepted. Maybe it is widely accepted by scholars out there. That's why we have to learn about this theory, or to know about this theory. So this is explanation about this theory. Okay, so this is Kohlberg moral dilemma. In Europe, a woman was near death from cancer. One drug might save her, a form of radium that a druggist in the same town had recently discovered. The druggist was charging $2,000, 10 times what the drug cost him to make. The sick woman's husband, hence, went to everyone he knew to borrow the money, but he could get together only about half of what it cost. He told the druggist that his wife was dying and asked him to sell it cheaper or let him pay later. But the druggist said no. The husband got desperate and broke into the man's store to steal the drug for his wife. Should the husband have done that? Why? Okay, what do you think? If you use Kohlberg theory to solve this dilemma, then if we refer to the Kohlberg theory, we can say that according to Kohlberg, this is an adult, so he's supposed to be at stage 5 or 6 of the Kohlberg theory. Okay, let's see what is in the stage 5 and 6. Step 5, confirm to maintain community's emphasis on individual rights, individual principle of conscience. So, Kohlberg's theory explains that an adult should not do this decision. See, the husband broke into the man's store to steal the drug. So, according to Kohlberg, this is not supposed to happen. So, you can see that Kohlberg explains about things that should happen or supposed to happen or happening to many people, but it is not always correct. And the second thing is, you can see that Kohlberg's theory does not explain whether the action is correct or not. He only explains things that is happening or what will happen to these young children and also adults. That is the way that I see it. Okay, the theory does not explain about whether the thing is correct or not. Only explains about the things that are happening or commonly happen. So maybe the dilemma is the theory does not explain about what is wrong, what is right or wrong. Kohlberg's theory of moral judgment on basis of longitudinal research. Kohlberg proposed that children develop moral reasoning through a specific series of stages that are discontinuous and hierarchical. Each stage reflects a qualitatively different, more adequate way of thinking than one before. Kohlberg presented children with hypothetical moral dilemmas and questions them about the issues involved. So Kohlberg, when he developed the theory, he did a study. After doing this study, he comes up with the theory. So you have to aware that it is not easy to develop and introduce a theory. You have to do a study, observations, for example, and then only after that you can develop a theory, and you have to test the theory. Otherwise, it cannot be accepted as a theory. At best, it can be only accepted as an opinion. Okay. This is more explanation about Kohlberg stages. Okay. Okay, 6 stages. Okay, I stop at this slide. In the part 2 of this lecture, I will cover religion's perspectives about the moral reasoning. Thank you very much. Do not forget to write your name and matric number in the comment section. I will take that as the lecture attendance.